Okay guys, I'm the General. Welcome to Lesson 4. The wait is now over. You've suffered through my lessons about the basics, about battlefield terrain and cover, and now you guys are ready to learn about abilities. So, as you can see from my board, I've tried to quantify what all these abilities are. And I want to make a note here. These abilities, what I'm talking about are the things you see right here. It's not force powers or commander effects, it's just these abilities. Most miniatures, though, will have more than just two. Say, Bothan Commando, for example, has got 3. My ASN Assassin Droid, from my last 2 examples, has got 5. It really just depends on the miniature. But you find a lot of force powers work the same way abilities do. But first, let's just worry about these abilities. I tried to quantify them for you guys into about 5 different types. You don't really need to know these types by name per se, but it just helps to understand how certain abilities will work. For starters, they're what I call constant abilities. They're just there. They're not ones that turn on or off. You don't activate them or trigger them. They just exist. For example, go back to the ASN Assassin Droid for a minute. Abilities like Droid. It just means that critical hits won't hurt it. Commander effects don't work on it. It's not something that you activate. You can't choose to make it a droid. It just is. You can't choose to make it fly. It's just a constant feature of the fact that this is an ASN Assassin Droid. It is a droid and it can fly. Those are what I call constant abilities. They're just there. Read their text, but don't worry too much about when to use them, because you don't use them. You just have to know what they do. Next up are what I call a triggered ability. A triggered ability is, of course, triggered by something happening. So, for example, think of our Bothan Commando. It has the power Intuition. Once per round, after initiative is determined, this character can immediately move up to its speed before any other character activates. I wish this camera would focus in a little more. But anyway, what's trying to say is right after you do your initiative roll for a round, and you figure out who's going first, immediately after that, the Bothan Commando can move up to its speed. And speed isn't something we've discussed yet. Unless it says otherwise on the card, its speed is 6 squares. It can move up to 6 squares before anybody else takes a turn, and this doesn't cost a thing. You don't activate it, it just happens immediately after you do your initiative rolls. So a triggered ability is something you want to watch out for in case a circumstance like that should arise, when you'd want to do that. For example, Emperor Palpatine without throne, on throne, oh come on camera, focus a little, has the ability Evade. And we'll be going over that a lot better in a few lessons, but whenever he's hit by an attack, he takes no damage at all with a save of 11. In that case, you want to remember that ability when the circumstance of him getting hit by an attack should come around. You're going to want to know that, hey, he can avoid damage if I do a saving throw and get 11 or higher. So, for triggered abilities, you don't turn them on, you wait for the circumstance, and then it's helpful usually to use them. Activated abilities, on the other hand, are abilities you do turn on. You would choose to use them to help your miniature fight better, or heal, or whatnot. So for example, the Bothan Commando again has 2 more activated abilities here, and they're both activated abilities. Careful Shot and Deadeye. The text on these is really ambiguous, so I'm going to go over them, but Careful Shot means on this character's turn, if he doesn't move, he gets +4 attack. But let me tell you what that really means, because it's really ambiguous. What it means is, you can activate this ability. You can choose not to move at all and just attack with the Bothan Commando, and if you do so, you get +4 attack on that turn. Deadeye works the same way. You can choose not to move and you'll get +10 damage. So basically, if you don't move and just attack with this guy, on his turn, he'll have 10 attack and 30 damage, which is why these things are really awesome. You would choose to use an activated ability, but these abilities are not attacks. They are usually ways to make your attacks more effective. The fourth kind of ability is an ability that replaces an attack. So for example, the Hailfire Droid. And for those of you who remember this monstrosity from Attack of the Clones, I kid you not, I actually have one of these. Look over here. It takes up 9 spaces on the battle map. It is very easy to hit, as you can see from its defense of only 13, but it can take a lot of things down with it. But anyway, if you look at this Hailfire droid's abilities, you'll see Missiles 40. Replaces attacks is what it says immediately, which means that instead of moving 6 and attacking with him, or attacking and moving 6, you can do an ability that replaces attacks and then move 6, or move 6 and do an ability that replaces attacks. So you could move this monstrosity 6 squares and then use your missiles instead of attacking with it. And oftentimes these abilities will have a range. Attack ability will either be a sight attack, as this one is, anything he can see he can shoot missiles at, or it'd be a ranged attack, meaning usually within 6 squares you can attack somebody with some abilities. But in missiles case, you can shoot them at anybody you can see. Using an ability that replaces attacks, however, follows all the same rules of choosing a target for an ordinary attack. If someone has cover, you can't attack him unless he's the nearest enemy. So, even with missiles, which is a sight-based attack, you can't shoot missiles at something that has cover unless he's the nearest enemy. They're too insignificant. You're going to be more focused on the things that are way out in the middle of the open and that you can easily blow up to the sky with your missiles. Finally, there's abilities that replace an entire turn. And so instead of doing your turn, you would use one of those abilities. For example, back to the Hailfire droid, has the ability Wield, meaning it replaces, and it immediately says replaces turn. So you could take your whole turn and do this ability. You move up to 18 squares and then attack. Or of course, you can move 18 squares and then do an ability that replaces attacks, meaning missiles. So this monstrosity here needn't waste his time moving only 6 squares and attacking. You could move it 18 squares and then blow something up with your missiles. And I'm going to add the missiles, you can do them turn after turn after turn. They're just a standard ability. You use them instead of an attack. Wield, meanwhile, is something that you use on the entire turn, but often those abilities are either A, a really powerful attack, or B, something that's just going to let you attack, or do an ability that replaces attacks anyway. So that is how you use abilities. When and where to use abilities is going to come up in just a bit. But hopefully that should give you a better idea of how these abilities can work. In a lesson or two, I'll give you guys an actual scenario where you guys can see these abilities in action. Thank you.